This is the iconic New York strip steak and it's a beauty, but I'm going to turn it into something else.
Big thanks to Cheddar's Chef for sponsoring this episode.
Look at this thing! Wow! This one is exceptionally beautiful. Have you ever seen such a gorgeous New York strip? I ordered Wagyu New York strip steak, but an Australian one. And normally that means you get a little less marbling, but this thing is insane in its marbling. So it's a little better than what I expected and a little higher quality than I expected, but that's a good thing. Hey, I can work with it. And what I'm going to do to this steak, you're not going to believe, because I'm going to take it and cut it up into slices. I'm going to go as thin as possible while making sure I get it absolutely perfect and nice straight line, which is going to be a challenge with beef this fat. I understand you might have some questions on what's going on at the moment. Why are you cutting up that beautiful steak? But hey, you're watching the PitmasterX show. We're fine.
Remember your pressure points.
21.
Like, let's say you own a Michelin star restaurant and you're going to be cooking the most amazing dish, and you have this steak and you just grill it, a little bit of salt and pepper, you throw it on the plate. You think they'll let you keep that Michelin star? No, this is the place where we do special things. And now that we have these slices, let's take a look at them. What is that? That is maybe even more fat than beef. And look how it melts in my hand. It's still cold. It just melts away and becomes extremely tender. And I just happen to have the best idea what we can do with this steak. First thing that we want to do is get some seasoning on this meat. Like I said, it's not just going to be straight up salt and pepper. The idea behind it, if you're going to watch a steak video, it's kind of weird, right? Because you want to see something else, but you just want to see people cooking steak with a little bit of salt ahead of time. Reverse it steak, salt ahead of time, and nothing else. Then you only need to watch the one video that we made about that. If you're a straight up salt and pepper guy, it's your cue. Thanks for watching.
Are you wondering about the drop?
No, I'm not wondering about the drop. I know secretly everybody wants a tasty steak. And I can't blame you, mister. And then we're going to add about 30 grams of thyme. Well, with the twigs it's about 30 grams. Everybody that knows thyme knows it's like a thick, strong leaf. And if you compare that to these fresh, crispy parsley leaves, they don't hold that much ethereal oils. Now I have some in my own garden. Thyme, 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 thyme. English is so difficult sometimes. Chop it up. I'm going to put in 3 cloves of garlic. And then add half a tablespoon of finishing salt and a twist on the old pepper mill. And the last ingredient is going to be a grated yellow onion. Then we're going to load it up with olive oil, and we're going to need a good quality olive oil, which means an extra virgin olive oil, preferably a first pressing. And that means we're going to have loads and loads of flavor. Stir it up and then your spice mix is ready. Time to get the steak out again. Time to season that steak with our fresh made green spice mix. I'm just going to give each slab of steak a little bit of that spice mix and then rub it in. You don't need too much of it, otherwise it's going to be overpowering. Now, of course, I'm not going to stop right there. I'm going to add more flavor by putting on some Schwarzwälder Schinken, which basically is a smoked ham from the Schwarzwälder in Germany. The reason that I love it so much is because it's smoked and it will give us that delicious barbecue smoke profile, and it's got a little bit of fat. And then we're even going to put on some Parmesan cheese. I'm using a fine grate here because I really want this to melt. It's all about adding flavor, and this provides us with umami flavor. So I don't want too much cheese. It is a delicate dish that needs delicate flavors. And to make sure that all this stays inside the steak, I'm going to roll it up. And you might think we're going to put them on the barbecue. However, I got one more thing up my sleeve. I'm going to make a steak rub, starting with a tablespoon of finishing salt, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of ground black pepper, a teaspoon of dried parsley leaves, a teaspoon of dried chives, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and a teaspoon of dried rosemary. Mix that up and you got yourself the world's best steak rub. All I need to do is sprinkle a little bit of that steak rub on top of our beautiful New York strip rolls. And then I'm going to take this steak rub and add it to some butter. I'm going to take a tablespoon and 100 grams of butter, mix it up, And that is how easy it is to make a compound butter. And finally, it's time to start cooking. This is the Shadow Chef Boma grill. It is an absolute monster of barbecue. All you gotta do is chop up some kindle of light birchwood, light it up with a couple of fire starters, and once that burned down, you're gonna make some hardwood kindle out of beechwood and let that burn down into beautiful embers. And once your grill is nice and hot like now, you're ready to start cooking. Now we have rolls that we're gonna cook, which means they're thicker cuts of beef and they're going to take a longer period of time to get done. I'm not going to use the inside of this flat top griddle, I'm going to use the outside to slowly cook my steaks. So let's just put them on and start cooking. And as you can hear, we have that light sizzle going on, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm listening to the effect that the hot plate has on the steak. You can see that the closer I get to the fire, the darker the steel becomes. And that's how I know approximately how much heat I'm getting off my grill. There's never a moment of panic, I can just move them more towards the outside of the grill. We got a delicious Maillard effect. That is all flavor. That steak turning to a sweet crust sitting on the outside. It's all about creating more flavor, more. Steak, a little bit of seasoning, filled up with some goodness, delicate goodness, and then a little bit of seasoning on the outside with that beautiful crust. One more thing. We got that compound butter, a slice of the compound butter on each steak. I'm just gonna let that melt, making the outside even crispier, tastier, rich, and loaded with more flavor of that compound butter. I'm gonna give that butter a moment to melt while we wait for the steak to get up to a core temperature of 54 degrees Celsius. Now, let's take a look on the inside. And look at that absolute beautiful juicy steak. Need I say more? No, I guess I don't. All I need to do now is perform a taste test. See if they're actually any good.
Is that it? That's it? Not gonna say anything? Okay, I'm gonna go now.